All right, so today we're diving into something pretty interesting. It's a trend we've been seeing pop up after these wildfires in Southern California.
Okay.
And that's theme parks offering free tickets to first responders.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be looking specifically at Universal Studios, Hollywood, and Disneyland.
Right.
And yeah, I'm really curious to hear your take on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is motivating these places to make these big gestures?
Right.
How are first responders feeling about it? And does it actually change how we see these big entertainment companies?
It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think so too.
There are a lot of interesting questions there.
Yeah, definitely. So to start, maybe we can look back at some other times that theme parks have given out free tickets after big disasters or crises.
Sure.
I know this is the first time we've seen this happen, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's become kind of a standard practice for those big theme parks after a big disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Hurricane Harvey hit Texas back in 2017. Both Six Flags Fiesta Texas and SeaWorld San Antonio offered free admission to first responders and their families.
Oh, wow.
And then that same year, after Hurricane Irma in Florida, Walt Disney World did the same thing,
Okay.
giving free tickets to first responders and people who were displaced by the storm.
So it sounds like it often goes beyond just free admission too, right?
That's right.
There's more to it.
A lot of times they include discounts for family members,
Right.
special events, and sometimes they'll even provide accommodations for people who lost their homes.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a way for these parks to boost morale and provide practical support after those disasters.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let's get into what's actually happening this time.
Okay.
Both Universal Studios and Disneyland have announced things for first responders after these wildfires here.
Yeah.
Could you give us some specifics on what each offer looks like?
Sure. So Universal Studios Hollywood was the first to announce something.
Okay.
Back on January 31st, they announced the First Responder Heroes ticket offer. Eligible first responders like firefighters, EMTs, police officers, and the National Guard.
Right.
They can all get a free general admission ticket.
Wow.
And they can get 50% off up to 3 additional tickets.
Nice. So a 50% discount for their family and friends.
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty generous.
Yeah. And it's good until April 10th, 2025.
Oh, wow.
Then just a week later, Disneyland announced their Heroes ticket program,
Okay.
and they're offering 2 free one-day park hopper tickets.
Okay, so you can go between Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
So Disneyland's offering 2 tickets versus Universal's 1.
Right.
But is there a catch with the Disneyland offer?
Yeah, they're only valid Monday through Thursday,
Okay.
from May 5th through August 7th.
So they're pushing people to go during the week when it's less crowded.
Yep, and outside of that peak summer season.
Smart.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they took kind of different approaches.
Yeah,
Universal's got that wider time frame for 1 ticket,
right.
but Disneyland's a shorter time frame, but with 2 tickets. Yep.
What do you think about that?
Well, it probably comes down to a bunch of different things.
Like what?
Like how many people they can fit in the parks at once,
Yeah.
how many people they think are going to visit, and their own marketing strategies.
Mhm.
Disneyland with its 2 parks and all that space.
Right.
Maybe they feel more comfortable having more guests on weekdays.
Makes sense.
But Universal with just the 1 park
Yeah.
and all the thrill rides.
They probably want to keep things more spread out.
Exactly.
It seems pretty strategic for sure. But I do wonder about the real motivation behind these offers. I mean, it seems like a nice gesture on the surface, but there's got to be more to it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Let's be real. Theme parks are businesses.
for sure.
And these offers are great PR moves.
So they are getting good publicity out of it. What else?
Well, it is also a genuine way for them to say thank you and
Yeah.
give back to the community.
Especially after something like these wildfires.
Exactly. And don't forget about boosting morale for the first responders and their families. That's true. They've been through a lot. I bet a trip to a theme park could be a great way to de-stress after dealing with all that.
A chance to create some positive memories. And escape from all the pressure they face every day.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious how the first responders and their families actually feel about these offers, though.
Yeah.
Have there been any strong reactions either way?
Well, I think you'd find a pretty big mix of opinions and emotions.
Go.
Some first responders are probably really touched by it.
Mm-hmm.
They see it as a real thank you from the community.
Yeah, especially those who were right there in the middle of those fires.
Exactly, putting themselves at risk.
A free day of fun with their families probably feels like a huge relief. I could just imagine
Yeah.
a firefighter who spent weeks battling those blazes, coming home exhausted, maybe even dealing with some trauma, and
Yeah.
then getting this offer.
It would mean a lot.
Yeah, it could bring so much joy to them and their family.
Definitely. But on the other hand, some first responders might feel kind of unsure about it, like maybe awkward about being singled out,
Right.
or worried that the theme parks are patting themselves on the back too much.
Yeah, it could feel like a publicity stunt, especially these days.
For sure. It all depends on how it's done.
Yeah.
If it feels genuine, then it'll be well received. But if it comes across as just marketing, it could backfire.
That's true. And then there's the whole question of fairness.
Right.
Like maybe some first responders think others deserve it more,
Yeah.
like those who were injured on the job or faced bigger risks.
It's complicated for sure.
Yeah, it's a really complex situation with a lot of different emotions.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some positive reactions and some more hesitant ones.
Yeah.
But have there been any outright negative reactions to this kind of thing?
You know, there are always going to be critics who think it's just a shallow gesture.
Like, what do they say?
They might argue that the money could be better spent, donating directly to relief efforts or supporting families who are struggling financially.
Yeah.
And some first responders might agree, like it's all symbolic and not really meaningful.
So there are a lot of different perspectives to consider here.
For sure.
But in the end, how does all this affect how the public sees theme parks?
Right.
Do these acts of generosity make people view these companies in a better light?
It's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but I do think it helps create a more positive image.
Uh-huh.
People generally like it when companies care about their community and show support for people who are in need.
It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just this big corporation focused on making money.
Exactly.
We're part of this community and we want to help out.
Yeah, it helps them connect with people on an emotional level.
I see. And it probably helps counteract some
Right.
of the negative stuff people think about theme parks,
Right.
like being too expensive and crowded and all about spending money.
Exactly.
It's like they're trying to soften their image a bit, show that they actually care.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, it works.
Okay.
They see these nice gestures and it makes them feel better about the theme park.
Yeah.
They might even be more likely to visit knowing that the park supports good causes.
But there's also that risk of it backfiring, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like if people see it as just a PR move.
It can hurt their reputation, for sure.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
It really is.
If it's not done authentically, it can come across as fake and opportunistic.
Yeah, and especially with social media these days.
Right.
Any little mistake can blow up.
Exactly.
So it seems like these theme parks are taking a bit of a gamble here.
Yeah.
There's potential for good PR and making people feel good about them. But there's also a risk of looking insincere.
It all comes down to their intentions.
Yeah.
And how well they communicate those intentions to the public.
That's a really good point. This has been a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot. From past examples of these offers to the motivations behind them and all the different reactions from first responders and the public.
It's complex.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's still so much more to talk about.
Definitely.
Like one of the biggest questions we haven't fully answered yet is, does it even matter?
Right.
Do these gestures actually make a real difference in the lives of first responders?
Yeah.
Or in the community as a whole?
Good questions.
Yeah, huge. And that's what we'll be talking about in the next part of our deep dive.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's important to remember that first responders are not like one big group.
Yeah.
They're all different people
Yeah.
with different experiences and opinions. So their reactions to these offers are going to be all over the place.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I guess, what are some of the things that might shape how they react to this?
Well, think about it. Some of them might be really moved by the gesture,
Yeah.
see it as a real thank you from their community. Especially the ones who are right there fighting those wildfires,
Yeah.
putting themselves in danger.
Yeah.
For them, a free day of fun with their family,
Yeah.
it could be huge.
Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah.
can totally picture that.
Yeah.
A firefighter who's been out there for weeks battling these crazy blazes.
Right.
They come home exhausted. Maybe they're dealing with some trauma from what they saw.
Yeah.
And then they get this offer.
Yeah.
It could be such a source of joy for them and their family.
Definitely. But on the flip side, you'll have some first responders who are a little more I don't know.
Hesitant?
Yeah, hesitant. They might feel weird about being singled out.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just the theme parks trying to make themselves look good?
Yeah, that's always a risk, right?
Yeah. It could feel like a publicity stunt.
Especially these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really comes down to how it's done.
Yeah.
If it feels genuine, like they really mean it,
Yeah.
then it'll probably go over well. But if it feels like marketing, it could backfire.
For sure.
And then there's that whole issue of fairness.
Yeah.
Some first responders might think that other people deserve it more.
Like who?
People who were injured on the job,
Right.
or for the ones who face like way bigger risks.
Right. Yeah.
It can get really messy.
It's a really complicated issue with all these different emotions.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've talked about the positive reactions and the more like unsure ones.
Right.
But have there been any like straight up negative reactions to this kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. You're always going to have people who think it's just a shallow gesture.
Like, what do they say?
They might say that the money could be better spent elsewhere,
Yeah.
like donate it to relief efforts
Yeah.
or use it to support families who are struggling financially.
Right.
And some first responders themselves might feel that way too. Like
Yeah.
it's just a symbolic thing and not really making a real difference.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of different perspectives on this.
Yeah.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, how does all this affect how the public sees these theme parks?
Right.
Does it actually make people view them more favorably when they do these things?
Well, it's tough to measure the exact impact, but I do think it contributes to a more positive image overall.
Okay.
People generally like it when companies seem like they care about their community
Yeah.
and support people who are in need.
Yeah, it makes them seem more human.
Right. It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just some faceless corporation.
Right.
We're a part of this community.
Yeah.
We want to do our part.
And it probably helps balance out some of the negative things people think about theme parks,
Exactly.
like the whole expensive and crowded thing.
Yeah, and all the consumerism.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like they're trying to show they have a heart, too.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, it works.
Yeah.
They see these gestures, and it makes them feel better about the theme park.
Mm-hmm.
They might even be more likely to visit knowing that the park supports causes they care about. But there's always that risk of it backfiring, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like if people see it as just a calculated PR move.
It could actually hurt their reputation.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
It's a delicate balance.
For sure.
If it doesn't feel authentic,
Yeah,
it can seem disingenuous and opportunistic.
and with social media being what it is these days,
I know, right?
any misstep can be amplified so quickly.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. So it seems like these theme parks are kind of taking a gamble here.
Yeah, they are.
There's the potential for good PR and building goodwill,
Mm-hmm.
but they also risk coming across as insincere.
Yeah, it all comes down to how genuine their intentions are and how well they communicate that to the public.
That's a really good point. This has been such a thought-provoking discussion.
Yeah.
We've covered so much
Yeah.
from the history of these offers to the motivations behind them
Mm-hmm.
and all the different reactions from first responders and the public.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. But I feel like the biggest question is still out there.
What's that?
Does it actually matter?
Right.
Like, do these gestures really make a difference in people's lives,
Yeah.
in the lives of first responders, or in the community as a whole?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, it is, and that's what we're going to be getting into in the last part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back, and we've talked about these offers from Universal Studios and Disneyland.
Yep.
We've looked at why they might be doing this and how people are reacting.
Mm-hmm.
But the big question I keep coming back to is like, does any of this actually make a difference?
That's the real question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can talk all day about PR and what the public thinks,
Right.
but what really matters is how these actions affect people's lives.
So let's get into that then.
Okay.
Like on a practical level,
Mm-hmm.
a free day at a theme park could be a real break for first responders and their families,
Oh, yeah,
especially after going through something as traumatic as those wildfires.
for sure.
It's a chance to just relax,
Right.
have some fun,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even forget about their worries for a bit.
Yeah, there's a real psychological benefit there.
Yeah.
Trauma takes a toll.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing is laughter joy,
Right.
just sharing some good experiences.
Yeah.
These theme park visits can offer a real escape,
I
a
say
chance to reconnect with loved ones and recharge.
it's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly.
And I bet it means a lot to the families, too,
Oh, for sure.
knowing that people appreciate what their loved one did
Mm-hmm.
and that they're getting a chance to enjoy themselves.
It's a small gesture, but it can really lift their spirits.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's not just about the individuals either, right?
Uh-huh.
I feel like these gestures can create a stronger sense of community.
I agree.
It shows that we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way for the theme parks to demonstrate their commitment to the community. I'm also thinking about like the ripple effect.
Okay.
When other businesses see companies like Universal and Disneyland doing this,
Yeah.
it might inspire them to do something similar. And that could create a more supportive environment for first responders all around.
Definitely. It sets a good example.
Mm-hmm.
And even though one act of generosity won't solve all the problems,
Right.
it can definitely contribute to a culture of appreciation and support.
I think it also starts a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about this right now because of what these theme parks did.
Exactly.
And it's making us think more about how we value and support our first responders.
That kind of dialogue is so important.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think about what more we can do.
As individuals,
Yeah.
communities.
It's the whole society.
Yeah, to make sure those who risk their lives for us are taken care of.
Exactly.
So even though it's tempting to be cynical
Right.
and think these offers are just PR,
Yeah.
I think we have to recognize the potential for good.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
appreciating the gesture, but also pushing for more meaningful support for our first responders.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
And something for all our listeners to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Don't just take these things at face value.
Yeah.
Ask questions. Think about the motives and the impact.
And most importantly, think about what you can do to make a difference in your own community.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well said. So that about wraps up our deep dive for today.
Time flies.
It really does. We covered a lot of ground,
We did.
and it's clear that this is something we need to keep talking about.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.